Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in today. If you got a kid and he ever gets arrested, or she, the 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 worst thing you could do is rush right down there and bond them out, or just even pick them up. And I know in juvie there ain't bonds, not here anyway, but let them sit. Let them earn that one. That's the one thing I wish my grandmother would have done for me, because the very first time I ever got arrested, she was down there before the ink dried on the paper. And it's about teaching kids consequences. Because I don't mean this in a bad way, but single mothers tend to raise, if they're raising boys, they tend to raise them and turn them into men they wouldn't want to be with. And it's not their fault. I'm not knocking women, because they are our nurturers, right? But you don't want to date a mama's boy. Think about every mama's boy you've ever been with and all the issues you had. The most emotional men on earth are men who grew up with a single mother. And then and being that they're a man, and we don't deal in emotion. It's not in our genetic makeup to deal with emotion like that. I'm not saying we don't have emotions, but we're more tactical. Our emotions don't mean as much to us as getting the job done does, or the result, I should say. And so when you got men who grow up in a single mother household, the number one emotion they resort to is anger and rage. And that's because they don't know how to sort their shit out, because they've never had a strong male in their life to teach them how to structure their life, and how to conduct themselves. And so it's no coincidence that 90% of all inmates come from a single parent household. That's not a coincidence. That being said, there are examples, so it is possible. Accountability for a young man is everything. Learning how to take responsibility for yourself and your actions is everything. A young lady is more likely to learn. All the chicks that I grew up with that got arrested when I was a kid, out of all of them, and there was a lot, maybe two of them ever made it to prison. And that's because females mature a lot sooner than men. But as a man who grew up, I was I was I had it rough, but I was fortunate. See, my issue was, at the moment, at, you know, when you're a kid, you don't know how to sort out what you're going through. And so I wasn't ever able to kind of stop and smell the roses and see reality for what it was. Yes, my reality was, you know, I my mother had me when she was 16. My father died when I was 8 years old in a high-speed chase running from the police, and I didn't know him. And right before he died, I had started to get to know him. All that's true. And yes, I came from a long line of alcoholics. And yes, my grandfather was this and that and all. He was a physically abusive and verbally abusive. But at the same time, I had good. I had my grandmother and my grandfather, and I had uh, an example on how relationships should be and how men should be. But unfortunately, by the time I moved in with them full time, the damage was already done, and I chose to focus on what I didn't have as opposed to what I did have. And it just took me, 25 years, 20 years to figure that out. Once a young man gets to prison, you can pretty much forget about it. See, you can save him, you know, popping in and out of juvie. You can save him, but it's critical what you do early, what you do the first time. And so that's why I say let them sit. Don't go in there and immediately, when they call you to come pick them up, nope, keep them. Because if that's something they're going to choose to do for the rest of their life is be a career criminal, they need to know what they're up against. Either way, either you're going to straighten your shit out. I'm leaving you in here so you can learn your lesson. So you're going to either learn your lesson while you're sitting here until the judge lets you out, or you're going to have a better understanding of what you were destined to be. But either way, it's a benefit to you. I speak out of experience. Everything I speak on when it comes to these topics, I'm an expert in. I got my PhD in all this. And you're not going to fix a grown man who's already stuck in his ways. He can fix himself, but you're not going to fix anything. But to those of you with young men, young kids who are showing signs of jail on the horizon, and you guys know who you are, it ain't hard to figure out. Shit, the first time I got arrested, I was 8 years old. Sitting here talking to you today, I'm 45-year-old man, thinking back 37 years ago. I can't imagine. But I was 8 years old, throwing rocks off an overpass, hitting cars on the expressway. How stupid is that? And it was a group of us. I remember it. It was, shit, there was probably about 6 or 7 of us. And I had my little brother with me. And we were taking rocks. We were keeping score. Seriously. We were hitting cars. There were cars speeding by on the expressway. We would throw rocks, hit them. God willing, we didn't cause an accident. But I got arrested for that. The police came and they arrested us. All of us did. But we were too young to keep down there. So when they called our parents, they called our parents to come get us. But the first time I was old enough to where they could have kept me, I was 13. And I made a video about it. Me and my cousin was walking down the street. We were just out doing nothing. Wasn't even supposed to be out that late, 13 years old. after midnight. We're just out looking for trouble. And we seen a couple of our friends, same age, driving a car. And they stopped and picked us up. They had stole the car. We hopped in with them, and no longer, the police, I feel like, was already tailing them when we got in, because it wasn't 2 minutes after we hopped in the car, the police blooped us. And he had turned on a side street, and when he turned, we all hopped out, and the car kept rolling, and the car crashed into a parked car. We all ended up getting hemmed up for the shit. We had to split the restitution 4 ways. We all had to work juvenile restitution, and we split it 4 ways. And but the night I got arrested, when I was a kid, they would call your parents and give your parents the option, unless it was a serious case where they had to keep you. But if it was just something petty, or I mean, if it was just something to where they could let you go, they would call your parents. And so they called my grandma, and she came right and got me. And I appreciate her for doing that. She did it out of love. I just wish she wouldn't have. I feel like had it been my grandpa's decision, he might have let me sit. Now, in that moment, I'd have been salty at him, and I'd have felt like most kids would have felt like. But looking back on it now, that was most definitely would have been the best decision. You know, I spent 21 years of my life in prison. Just about 7 in the whole 7 years of solitary confinement. And from the ages of 13 to 39, I was either on probation, parole, or incarcerated. Actually, that's a lie. From the ages of 13 to 44, because I just got off parole. I came home at the age of 39. And so much of it could have and should have been avoided. And then that gets me to thinking about these laws. Because the day I got sentenced now, I've explained this story. I got my ass kicked. I got jumped on by a few guys. Went and retaliated, stabbed dude up. That was my error, going over there and doing that. If it would have happened in the moment, right when they initially jumped me, I probably wouldn't have done nowhere near the same amount of time that I ended up doing. Because I ended up getting 10 years. But that was because I walked all the way over there to get my get back. So it made it premeditated. But the day I got sentenced, there was a guy. He was an older Mexican guy. I'll never forget it. Short, little, fat Super Mario looking motherfucker. He was living with his sister. Now, mind you, they're late 30s, early 40s at the time. His sister walks into the garage, sees him sitting in the back seat of a car. So she opens the car door. He's sitting in the back seat of this car with his 9-year-old niece, that lady's daughter, with his pants down around his ankles and his genitals exposed. Now, she didn't catch them physically engaged in anything. But 2 and 2's 4. Like, we know either where it was going or where it had just went. I don't really remember all the details of the situation, but I know he got sentenced right before me. And they gave him 18 months. And the same prosecutor that I had that recommended my 10 years for my situation recommended he get 18 months. They've always felt like those types of offenders could be rehabilitated. That's why they would put them through all them programs, them rigorous programs and shit like that. I'm not getting off course from what the original topic of the video is. I guess I'm just speaking on the way you treat people, different offenders are treated. You know, as a kid, I just needed some guidance. I needed somebody to take a hold of me and what the fuck? Wake up, dude. Because I had a ton of potential athletically. I'm smart, you know, charismatic. Always had it good. Always was good with the chicks. You know, I ain't never lacked in that area. Um, but I just didn't have a whole lot of common sense. I did, but I didn't use it. I didn't exercise. I was more worried about what somebody thought about me. And that comes from abandonment issues. That comes from not having a father. That comes from having a mother who was in and out of your life, your whole childhood. That comes from living in multiple different households before the age of 8 or 10. You know, you start to wonder, like, man, like, are you a burden? Are you more of a hassle to these people? You know, the first place I ever been where I felt 100% wanted when I finally got with my grandparents. The damage was done because the number one culprit for the trauma I suffered as a kid, my grandfather, had just died, and I loved him to death. He was my I was more afraid of him than I would have fought the devil before I ever spoke back to him. And but he was also my hero because he was like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You know, he was alcoholic and he would go on binges where, he'd be sober for a whole year and then all of a sudden he'd slip up and he'd be drunk for a week. And then he'll go another 9 months and then do that, every so often he would just have a relapse. And it was gonna go one of two ways. Either he was gonna be the meanest fucker on the planet or the nicest person on the planet. And so that's how that went. And so when he died, you know, them 4 years I lived with him, my life was ran like militantly. When I got in trouble for shit, yeah, he'd crack me and fuck me up if it was bad enough. But most of the time, he'd make me do push-ups and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? And like, he made sports not fun because sports wasn't recreational. He made it mandatory, and we didn't just have to participate. We had to be the best because we better not embarrass him, type shit. And so when he passed, it kind of felt like I could breathe for a minute. These past couple years, I started going through puberty. I'm hitting my teenage years. I'm starting to like girls. And he wasn't having none of that. It was, you're going to stay in school, you're going to get good grades, you're going to play sports, and you're going to excel at those. And if you don't, I'm going to beat you until you do it. And so, I couldn't have the girlfriends. I couldn't go to the dances. I couldn't do that type of shit. And then when he died, I not only could I go, I was the basic. My grandma was like this. Do what you want to do. She wasn't irresponsible, but she just wanted me to. She wasn't smothering. She knew what I had just went through. And to her credit, she gave me too much credit. She knew the strict discipline that I had just been under for the past 4 years. And so she assumed that I would just carry that with me. And she gave me more credit than I deserved because she gave me that foot and I took a mile. And I dove off the porch. I didn't jump off the porch. I dove off head first and never looked back. And it was and a lot of the shit, the acceptance, the finally being able to do things I felt like I was being deprived of. For as much of an asshole he was, and he was an asshole, there was a method to his madness, for sure. And so that's why I say it's easier to fix a bad kid on a bad path than it is to fix a broken man. You're not going to fix a broken man. So once he hits the penitentiary, if you got a child and he's taking these chances, if he gets shipped off, you've lost him. You've lost it. It's in God's hands always, but you have the ability to fix it. I make these videos for the kids, man. They can't go out technically to the kids, but my ultimate goal is I don't want to see these fucking COs and these judges and all that. I'm tired of seeing these motherfuckers get rich off people going to jail, man. I'm tired of it. And it's babies. It's kids. So that's the video for today, y'all. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like and subscribe button. Support the channel. I'm thinking maybe next week doing my first live. Hit me up in the comments on some topics y'all might have, something y'all might want to talk about, man. Let's get the first live jumping. So until next time, y'all stay safe. It's the Hoodie Man. I'm out.